Hello, my name is Samuel Lim. My matrix number is BM24110045. The specialist that I take is neurology, and today I'm going to talk about the nervous system. So, what is neurology? Neurology is the branch of medicine that deals with the anatomy, functions, and disorder of the nervous system. It encompasses the study of the brain, spinal cord, and nerve, focusing on how these components interact to control bodily functions and behavior. Our nervous system is divided into CNS and PNS. CNS is central nervous system that consists of brain and spinal cord, while the peripheral nervous system (PNS) consists of branch from spinal cord, and it is subdivided into somatic nervous system and autonomic nervous system. CNS or central nervous system, the functions is to process sensory data such as touch and sight through the efferent pathway and send signals through the efferent pathway to motor neurons to execute actions. The brains govern high cognitive functions such as thought, memory, learning, emotion, and decision making, while also controlling voluntary movements and autonomic process like breathing, heart rate, and digestion. The spinal cord acts as a communication highway, transmitting signals between the brain and the rest of the body and enabling reflex action for quick response to stimuli. Next, we are going to talk about the PNS or peripheral nervous system. Peripheral nervous system includes all nervous tissue outside of CNS, spinal nerve, cranial nerve, ganglia, enteric plexus, and sensory receptor. PNS can be divided into SNS, ANS, ENS, which each means somatic nervous system, autonomic nervous system, and enteric nervous system. For autonomic nervous system, it is a division of the peripheral nervous system responsible for regulating involuntary physiological process. It controls vital functions that occur automatically, such as heart rate, blood pressure, digestion, respiration, body temperature, and glandular activity. The autonomic nervous system operates subconsciously to maintain homeostasis and adapt to changes in the environment. And for somatic nervous system, division of the peripheral nervous system responsible for controlling voluntary movement and transmitting sensory information between the central nervous system, CNS, and the rest of the body. So now we are going to look at the anatomy of neuron. So this picture shows a single neuron, and it consists of dendrites, cell body, axon, and in the axon we also have myelin sheath, synapses, and nodes of Ranvier. So we are going to look at the first structure, which is dendrites. Dendrites is the tree-like structure branching out from the cell body, and it also receives signal from other neuron or sensory receptor and transmit them to the cell body. Lastly, dendrites is covered with synaptic receptor that interact with neurotransmitter released by other neurons. Next structure is the cell body. Cell body contains the nucleus and other organelles like the endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi apparatus, and mitochondria, which are essential for the neuron's metabolic activities. Next is axon. Axon is a long and thin projection extending from the cell body at a cone-shaped elevation called axon hillock. And in the axon, it is covered with myelin sheath, or what we know as a protective insulating layer made of fatty substances that speed up signal transmission. Other than that, we also have nodes of Ranvier, which is a gaps in the myelin sheath that facilitate rapid conduction of impulse by saltatory conduction. Now, we are going to look at the classification for the axon. First is the classification of structure. We have three structural of axon. First is multipolar neuron, second is bipolar neuron, and third is unipolar neuron. The first one is multipolar neuron. is many dendrites and one axon. For example, it exists in the brain and spinal cord. Next is the bipolar neuron. It is one main dendrite and one axon. And lastly, unipolar neuron. The dendrites and axon are fused together, forming a continuous process. Next, we are going to look at the classification by the functions of the axon. First is the interneuron. Interneuron is responsible for reflexes, cognitions, and coordination. The next function is motor neuron. Motor neuron control voluntary and involuntary movement or glandular activity. And lastly, the function of axon is sensory neuron. Sensory neuron transmit signal from sensory receptor, for example in skin, organs, or senses, towards the CNS or central nervous system. Now we are going to talk about the ion channels that exist on the axons of a neuron. Ion channels are specialized protein structure embedded in the cell membrane that allow the selective passage of ions, for example, sodium, potassium, calcium, and chlorine, across the membrane. They play a crucial role in maintaining the cell's resting membrane potential, generating action potentials, and facilitating signal transmission. So we have four different ion channels in axon. The first is the leak channel. Leak channel always open, allowing passive ion movement to maintain the resting membrane potential. For example, potassium leak channels. Next one, we have ligand gated channel. Ligand gated channel open in response to the binding of a specific molecule, or what we know as ligand, such as a neurotransmitter. For example, nicotinic acetylcholine receptor at site synapses. Next, we have mechanically gated channel. Mechanically gated channel open in response to physical force like pressure or stretch. For example, channels in sensory receptor for touch and hearing. Lastly, we have voltage gated channel. Voltage gated channel open or close in response to changes in the membrane potential, such as voltage gated sodium and potassium channels involved in action potential. So we are going to talk about the biochemical process that's going through on the neuron, which is the generation of action potentials. First, we have the depolarization phase. The depolarization phase started with a stimulus that caused the neuron to reach its threshold potential, or specifically negative 55 MV. The voltage gated sodium channel is open at this point. The rush of sodium ion into the cell causes the membrane potential become less negative. It reaches zero and then become positive. And lastly, activation gate of voltage gated sodium plus channel will open, causing further depolarization. Next is the repolarization phase. The voltage gated potassium channels will open, allowing potassium ions to flow out. This causes the membrane potential to return to its resting membrane potential, which is negative 70 MV. However, hyperpolarization can occur because the large outflow of K+ will make the membrane potential become more negative. And now we are going to talk about the disease related to neurology. So the disease that I take is Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's disease is the most common causes of dementia. Alzheimer's disease is a biological process that begins with the appearance of a build-up of proteins in the form of amyloid plaques and neurofibrillary tangles in the brain. This causes the brain cells to die over time and the brain to shrink. Alzheimer's disease affects many parts of the brain, including the hippocampus, entorhinal cortex, frontal lobe, temporal lobe, and the parietal lobe. The symptoms of Alzheimer's disease is first is memory loss. This means that A person that have Alzheimer's disease will have difficulty in remembering recent events, conversation, or even names, even among their significant others. Next is a patient with Alzheimer's disease will have difficulty with problem solving problem. This means that they will uh, have challenge in planning or solving simple tasks such as managing finances or following recipes. Lastly, they will confuse with the time and place, or they will get losing track of dates, seasons, or familiar locations. So the treatment for Alzheimer's disease, we actually doesn't have any definitive cure currently with our current technology, but there are options available to slow down the symptoms, and one of it was to use medications. For example, we can use cholinesterase inhibitor to increase the level of acetylcholine that helps in memorizing and learning. Lastly, I'm going to talk about the specialist that I take for neurology, which is Dr. Ng Wai Kyong. Dr. Ng Wai Kyong focuses on migraine treatment, thrombolytic therapy, transcranial Doppler TCT. He earned his MBBS at 9 University of NSW, Australia in 1989. He also was a postgraduate clinical trainee in University Hospital Kuala Lumpur from 1993 to 1997. He also have a honorary neurologist at Austin Hospital, Melbourne, Australia, 1995. That's it for my presentation. Thank you.